Hey everyone, and welcome. We are diving into a really big topic today. How do you get AI to be more than just another expensive piece of software? How do you actually turn it into a real, honest-to-goodness engine for transformation in your development workflow? Let's jump right in.
But first, let's start with a question that I'm willing to bet sounds pretty familiar to a lot of you. You buy that shiny new AI tool, everyone's excited, but a few months down the line, it's just gathering dust. It's not really delivering. So why does this happen over and over again? Well, the answer is both powerful and, honestly, pretty simple. A real AI transformation has almost nothing to do with the tool itself. You could say it's 90% about psychology and only 10% about the technology. The real work is all about changing how people think and what they do, day in and day out. Okay, so if it's all about people and habits, how in the world do you actually guide that kind of change? Well, you can't just wing it. You need a plan. So we're going to walk through a super clear 3-stage roadmap that'll take you from a tiny pilot project all the way to full-blown integration. So here's the 30,000-foot view of that journey. And I love this metaphor. Think of it like farming. First, you have sowing, which is where you carefully plant the seeds with a pilot program. Then comes irrigating, where you scale things up and really nurture that growth. And finally, you get to harvesting, where you start to reap the rewards and build this self-sustaining system. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. In stage 1, that sowing phase, you've got to start small and you've got to start smart. You pick just a couple of pioneer teams. Then you give them the right tools, like an AI code assistant with RAG, which is just a fancy way of saying it can read your company's own internal documents. And here's the most important part. You measure their performance for a month before they touch the AI. You need that baseline. Now, stage 2 is not just about giving the tool to more people. It's about building the whole support system around them. So you create a shared library of prompts and best practices, what actually works. You start adapting your existing agile processes. Like in sprint planning, you ask, hey, what here can be automated by AI? And you put together a central support team so people aren't left on their own when they get stuck. And in that final stage, harvesting, AI just becomes a standard part of your infrastructure. It's like having electricity or Wi-Fi. But this is where the real magic happens. You start using your own code, your own data, to fine-tune the AI models. You're making the AI not just smart, but your kind of smart. Okay, that roadmap, that's the what. But like we said at the start, the who is so much more important. A perfect technical plan will absolutely fail if your people are scared or pushing back. So how do you handle the human side of all this change? This right here, this is probably the most crucial step for building trust. You have to shout it from the rooftops. We are changing how we measure performance. It is no longer about who can crank out the most lines of code. It's about who can use this new AI partner to solve the toughest business problems and deliver real, tangible value. And here's how you make that a reality. First, you give people permission to be a little slower at the beginning while they're learning. That's okay. Second, you explicitly create a space for error, so they're not terrified to experiment and maybe mess up. And third, you publicly celebrate the people who find cool, innovative ways to use AI. Make them the heroes. Now, a transformation this big doesn't just happen by accident. To really steer the ship and make sure all this change actually sticks, you need to create a dedicated command center. Let's call it an AI Agile Center of Excellence, or a COE for short. So who's on this team? Well, it's not just a room full of techies. You need an agile coach who gets the process. You need the AI expert, of course. You absolutely need a security and compliance person to keep everyone safe, and you need a senior architect who can see the whole big picture. Think of it like a multidisciplinary strike team. And what they do is super practical. They manage the tools so you don't end up with 10 different AI systems that don't talk to each other. They set the guardrails to prevent security risks like code leaks. And my favorite part? They actively build excitement. They run hackathons and programming contests to get the whole organization skilled up and having fun with it. All right, we've gone through the roadmap, we've talked about the people. Now let's just boil it all down into some rapid-fire, absolutely essential principles for success. Think of these as the do's and don'ts you just have to remember. First, and please, you have to avoid this giant trap. So many companies think that just buying the AI license is the transformation, but it's not. The tool, that's just the ticket that gets you into the game. It is not the game itself. And if you fall for that trap, here's the scary truth. If your current development foundation is a mess, AI is not going to magically fix it. All it's going to do is help you produce bad code faster and more efficiently than ever before. Which brings us to probably the most important way to think about this. You have to treat AI as the co-pilot. It suggests things, it assists, it takes care of the boring stuff. But the human developer, they are always the pilot. They have the final say, the final review, and the ultimate decision-making power. So let's wrap this up with these last few critical factors. First, none of this is going to work without real, sustained support from senior leadership. Second, when you build your tech, design it so you're not locked into one AI vendor forever. And third, it is so important, I'm going to say it one more time, the developer is always in control. So after all this, what's the ultimate goal here? It's not just about coding faster. The real vision is to build a self-evolving organization, a place where AI and agile practices are so woven into the fabric of how you work that they feel as natural, as essential as air and water. And so we'll leave you with one final question to really think about and maybe take back to your own teams. Look at your strategy and ask yourselves, honestly, are you just buying AI or are you truly building with it? Because the difference between those two words is everything.